Greetings, greetings, peace and blessings. Come on in, come on in. Hey, salute, Miss Thumbnail Lady. We got Celia and y'all in the building. I appreciate y'all coming on through. Come on through. We got some stuff to kind of touch on today in the political arena. It won't be boring, I promise. Um, Definitely, got to keep it balanced because we got to deal with a little bit more than the typical BS, you know, that the sector tends to bring and the beef and all of that other stuff. So that's why I'm here. Yes, indeed. Thank you for hitting the like button on the way in. Appreciate you. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel and this is your first time watching, if you're catching the replay or the live, please feel free to subscribe and hit the all notifications bell so when I go live, you get notified, right? Appreciate you, appreciate you, appreciate you. I'm just going to give it another moment or two. Come on in, everybody. I hope everybody's day is going well. I hope everybody is being productive and absorbing good energy today. I'm definitely open for some peaceful, great, high vibrational energy. And let me just tell you, I'm getting it on the inside because outside is cold as hell. That's a little bit too much for my taste. Okay, just a little bit too much for what I got going on with these bones and these joints. I went outside this morning, called myself. I said, well, instead of going to the gym, I'll go run outside. Yeah, okay. That didn't happen. But I digress. Peace and blessings. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. So listen, I know, the political, the threshold or the major point of the political season has, kind of come and gone. At least there is a little bit of a reprieve until, of course, January when Trump becomes inaugurated. However, there still doesn't seem to be a dull moment in the political arena with all of the mumbo jumbo and all of this craziness that's going on, right? With the pardons, with the being on the verge of World War III, for those that believe so. I tend to not, but that's just my take on it. And at least I hope not. Let's put it that way. The newest news is this pardon situation with Hunter Biden. And I think, it's not uncommon for pardons to be issued, especially kind of heading out the office and at the end of the term of the presidency for those that you choose to issue and grant clemency on. However, because of the nature of this president and the hypocrisy that some people or many people feel has enveloped his term, his political career, I would even venture to say it definitely leaves cause and pause for conversation, right? So I'm going to go back, and the starting point of this live is going to be with the 1994 crime bill. And the reason I'm going to introduce this as a reactionary video or, giving context to this particular video is because it's no secret that one of the biggest battles that Hunter Biden has faced in his life has been drugs, right? And that's not alleged, right? So with this crime bill, some of the terminology and the expression, for lack of a better term, that Biden uses in this 1994 crime bill, or to introduce it into legislation and then ultimately getting it to pass, I think deserves some mention. So without further ado, salute to the chat. Salute to the chat. I got my beautiful Phoenix in the building. I got Miss Chicago, pretty lady. Thank y'all for coming on through. And yeah, without further ado, let's roll.
To the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons.
And I find this ironic, and this terminology actually very ironic, due to the fact that his son has just been pardoned for gun charges, okay, among other charges, but the most recent have been gun charges. So I just wanted to mention that. Pause for the cause. Let's go. Why is doing this? Hold on, y'all.
So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now.
So he used the terminology and the term predators, right? There is, depending on what social media platform you choose to utilize, there is mounds of information, videos, footage, and verbiage out there to basically confirm and to reiterate that one of the other challenges that his son has had has actually been displayed on this apparatus as porn. So I find it to be extremely interesting that he used, even though, again, this term and this 1994 crime bill was indeed in 1994. Now, mind you, before we continue, I just wanted to kind of give some of my context to the 19th, because I was grown. I was an adult. I was very aware, very in the loop of the 1994 crime bill, which contributed to mass incarceration, particularly and especially amongst Black and Brown Americans, for offenses, including but not limited to drug use, right? Of course, as we just stated, an issue that Hunter Biden has publicly struggled with, right? While the president framed his son's pardon as an effort to combat politically motivated persecutions, the decision has definitely, as we also stated, has drawn some accusations of hypocrisy, which is why I am actually showing this video, is to set the storyline or the basis of the hypocrisy that a lot of the country, all the way from the political parties, all the way down to the citizens, find it truly hypocritical especially coming upon the fact that initially he has been quoted several times stating that he had no intentions on pardoning Hunter Biden, his son, right? So the relationship that they have between personal leniency and the past advocacy for justice, it just highlights a lot of concerns when it comes to the American legal system. Just wanted to put that out there. Let's continue.
And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. I'm the guy that said, rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it. And even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But there is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malefactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. But we would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist. And we must deal with that. Take back the streets.
Okay, so the only other thing that I want to mention here, or a couple of points that I would like to make. First of all, he spoke and he was very candid about stating that we don't know how to rehabilitate. So instead of rehabilitating, we're just going to go ahead and plan on throwing them into jail or into the prison system, getting them off of the streets. Well, that's obvious because with the struggles that Hunter Biden has had, I don't know if and how many times he attempted to go through a rehabilitation process, but I mean, just a couple of years ago, there was cocaine found in the White House, right? So not saying who it belonged to. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm just saying that this news hit the forefront during his presidency. And in the midst of all of that, he has a son under the reign as well. And in the midst, back and forth, if he didn't live there, I don't know the particulars in that as well. However, he has definitely, up until recently, has been also struggling with drug addiction. So when it comes to, as Ms. Chicago was saying, with the hypocrisy, it's documented and it is apparent that he said several times, nope, when he was asked, I have no plans on pardoning my son, just to turn around and do so, and to go 11 years back, which is also a point of contention for many of the political leaders and, the citizens as well. So right now we have a situation where he has had a gun case dismissed. He's had a tax case in California dismissed that totals up $1.4 million in taxes. Boy, wouldn't we like any of us that have any type of tax debt to be eradicated based off of our last name, right? There's some contention there. There's definitely some dispute. However, it is still what it is, right? And this is in the midst of any political and legal fallout. So you got people within the party that are absolutely feeling some type of way about this, even in his own party, right? So the next video going to show is going to it's a news clip where you have a Democrat and a Republican actually going toe to toe on air as to one defending, okay, the fact, of course, the Democrat is saying, okay, yep, we don't blame him. Yeah, we know what he said, but we got to expect this. This is what we pretty much should kind of prepare for. It's not any different than what Trump did or other presidents, and then we have, of course, the Republican Party, and I'll just let them speak for themselves. Let's go. Salute to the chat. Salute to the chat. Hey, babes. Hey, babes. What's up, Bolo? Let's go, y'all.
Well, there are Democrats saying they're not happy that President Biden made this decision.
Yeah, well, tough. The president went ahead and did what he thought was right for him and to protect his son. And I think there are going to be Democrats who, from a political perspective, are going to feel like they may have to say something, but who probably on the inside understand why President Biden went ahead and did this. And I got to tell you, crowing from Republicans, and I know my dear friend Scott will have plenty to say about this, but we're talking about, Donald Trump is a convicted felon who literally had pardoned his daughter's father-in-law and just made him ambassador to France. So
when all else fails, let's deflect to Trump. Let's go back to Trump. Let's blame Trump. Trump hasn't even been inaugurated or sworn into office yet, and still somehow his name is just reverberating all through these streets every time somebody wants to hold the Democratic feet to the fire or to even give them pushback on certain hypocritical statements, because as we all know, the internet is forever. Once you put it out there on these airwaves, you're not going to be able to walk that back in grace. Either you're going to have to retract it, own it, just outright lie, or otherwise. So yeah, let's just blame Trump.
Talk about who's using what system in what fashion. Let's put it all on the table, and let's be honest about the fact that Donald Trump doesn't really have a leg to stand on in this one.
So, Scott Jennings, what about that? Steve Bannon, Charles Kushner, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, and Charles Kushner not just pardoned, but also apparently about to be nominated ambassador to France.
Joe Biden is leaving office making the strongest possible case for Donald Trump that anybody could possibly make it, and that's that our government and our justice system is of, by, and for the elites and nobody else. He ran to banish Trumpism from our political system in this country, and he has left it politically and now institutionally the strongest possible political force in this country. It is a complete and utter failure by the head of the Democratic Party and the President of the United States. Never again do I want to hear, oh, Donald Trump's a liar. You can't believe anything he says. Donald Trump will abuse his power. Donald Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family and so on and so forth. Never again. I have one question for Karen, and that is, why did he need an 11-year blanket pardon going back to 2014 when Joe Biden was the vice president? We are sitting on the biggest cover-up of who knows what crimes, and Joe Biden amazingly knows exactly, roughly, when it started. He knows just.
So if you aren't aware, one of the reasons that Biden substantiates and defends why he is going back 11 years on this pardon for Hunter Biden is because he feels like he was unfairly targeted for political reasons, as well as treated differently from others in similar situations just because his last name is Biden, right? But it's like, okay, so do we get to honor this both ways? Okay, so do you get the good in the good or just the good in the bad, or how do we balance this thing out? So Biden works for you when it comes to a full pardon, being able to go back as far as 11 years, but it's not fair because your name is Biden that you are being wrongfully targeted or quote unquote accused of certain things, or the focus is primarily on you. And now, because of the status and of your last name, now all of a sudden you are target and primary number one. So that is the defense that Biden's in his stance in stating, okay, this is why I have gone back 11 years to pardon Hunter Biden.
About when it all started, he's leaving office in complete and total disgrace. He is a liar, and there is no other way to spin this today. This has nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with the character of Joe Biden.
Let me get some context of what Scott is saying just there, Karen, before you address it, because this pardon, I do not believe we have mentioned it, not just granting clemency for the crimes for which Hunter Biden was convicted of illegally purchasing a gun, tax evasion, but also a blanket pardon for any federal crime.
So I just wanted to give that little clip there in regards
basically between 2014 and 2024. So what about that literal get out of jail free card for a 10-year period, Karen?
Well, look, literally, the president recognizes that Republicans have been for years now trying to attack the president himself, go after his family. And when you have someone who literally ran their campaign on retribution, on the idea of I will be your retribution and getting back at his enemies, I would imagine, obviously I haven't spoken to the president about this, but I would imagine the president took a look at this and said, I want to make sure this is ironclad, that there is nothing that can be done to circumvent what I'm going to do to protect my son and to try to take the target off of his back once and for all. So that's my reading of it. But again, I think that the hypocrisy here it is astounding. I mean, Donald Trump has said and done things, said things and done other things. And again, he's a convicted felon himself. He has used his power to benefit his friends, his wealthy allies. In this instance, we're talking about a man who decided to take care of his son after years of unrelenting attacks. I don't blame him.
Scott, did you have the same concerns over a justice system for the elite, as you put it before, when it was Donald Trump pardoning Steve Bannon, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, Charlie Kushner? Same concern then?
Listen, you guys can spend all day long trying to spin this, that this is Donald Trump's fault, that this is somehow caused by Donald Trump. Oh, he's appointing the wrong people. Oh, he did it. Oh, this is the worst possible thing a president could possibly do to his party and to the country, to sit for a year and say, I will not do this. I will not do this. The rule of law is sacred. We have to respect the justice system. Juries, we have to respect juries. We have to respect the guardrails and the norms of our democracy. These people are liars. Inflation, it's transitory. Afghanistan, it's a success. The border is secure. Robert Hur is a liar. The videos are cheap fakes. Biden has a cold. He'll never drop out. Oh, I'll never pardon Hunter. It's all a lie. It is all a grift. Every American, except the most partisan, brain-rotted people, are going to be outraged by this today. He is going to leave off. You think 38, 39% job approval is bad? Just you wait. Just you wait. He's disgraced today. Outrageous.
You don't need to, but Scott, you don't need to hurl names and say people like me are brain-rotted.
So basically they go back and forth, and they it's okay, the hypocrisy of it, as opposed to, well, he said that he would never pardon him, and then he turned around and did it, and then he went back 11 years, and then he forgave all of his transgressions, and all of his charges have been released, and including back taxes or tax liens or tax charges, all of these different things, right? And so again, I don't think it's abnormal to assume that a presidency would not exercise some clemency to people that they feel deserve, to have their slate wiped clean. They have, either learned from their mistakes, or they have paid for their transgressions, whatever the case may be. But my question is I have not seen a list of anyone outside of Biden, Hunter Biden, being pardoned. And he has been in office for 4 years. Well, another thing that I found interesting, I'm just going to pivot for real. It's all related, but my attempt and my objective is to absolutely show a correlation in character and in a level, in my opinion, of selfishness that this president has exhibited all the way throughout his political career, up until right now. So right now we have homeless veterans, we have a homelessness epidemic, we have a drug epidemic, related to and facilitated largely in part by open borders, with fentanyl and drug trafficking coming into this country from other countries, neighboring countries, and alike. And nothing has been done on that front, pre-election or post-election. None of those things have been addressed. None of those things have been brought to the table. There have been no solutions that have been proposed. And yet, Biden just gave Africa $1 billion to help their economy and their disenfranchised citizens, but we have no record or no mention of anybody in this country as far as the population that is disenfranchised to be helped before he passes the baton to Trump in January. Check this out.
You know, that's the right thing for the wealthiest nation in the world to do. And today, I'm announcing over $1 billion in new humanitarian support for Africans displaced from homes by historic droughts and food insecurity. We know African leaders and citizens are seeking more than just aid. You seek investment. So the United States is expanding our relationship all across Africa, from assistance to aid, to investment to trade, moving from patrons to partners, to help bridge the infrastructure gap. I was told, by the way, when I got elected, I could never get an infrastructure bill passed.
So, $1 billion, y'all. Now, my question is what about, we just had Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton that just tore a new behind through the southern eastern region of this country. And the most that I have heard, and many others have heard, is a $750 loan to those victims of Hurricane Helene as U.S. American citizens, taxpayers, homeowners, landowners of the kind, right? But you got $1 billion, whether it's in aid, whether it's in a combination of different resources, including monies, whatever it is in the form of that you are sending into Africa, into African nations, plural, I haven't heard any priority or precedence being put over any United States citizens. Again, also the only individual that I have seen or heard of him pardoning that has just smeared the news and has hit every headline of every major publication as of today is him pardoning his son because he doesn't want his son targeted. Again, I thought you were here to serve the people, not the people serving your best interests. I don't know where we got this whole thing twisted around because you were elected or selected, but you were placed and you were put through no power of your own, but from the people, supposedly, right? And I say that loosely, you were put there and elected there to do a job of service to the country and to take priority and to put precedence over parts of the country that need it the most. I don't know of anybody that needs it the most more than our vets and more than the hurricane victims as of current date, right? But you got $1 billion in whatever resources or monies to send over to African nations. Oh, trust and believe there is a reason why. There is a reason, and it's not because of selflessness, in my opinion. It definitely, and it will come out because we still got a little less than a month left in 2024, but I personally don't feel like the season of exposure will end on December 31st. It will come out as to why, but I think it's one of the many slaps in the faces, along with the immigration issue and many others, with inflation, with people struggling with the housing market, with the deficit, with all of these other different issues that we currently face as a nation, that you can publicly announce like you're the Good Samaritan and you're the Samaritan of the decade, that you're going to help African nations. Why? You won't even help your own people on this soil, right? So I just wanted to give that some, a little bit of shine in case people were unaware. So let's move on. We have some disputes within the Democratic Party itself, right? Where people are at odds, members are at odds, and they're trying to understand some of the moves and some of the decisions that he's making, including pardoning Hunter Biden. And there's definitely some conflict. But again, video, and when you go online or you speak before a camera, it will be there. It is not going anywhere. So 2 years later, this Democratic delegate had to walk back his words. Let's listen.
The president is exactly right that if his name were Hunter Smith and not Hunter Biden, he would not be charged with this, and that is not a proper outcome here. That's not a proper use of our rule of law. I wish the president had not stated after the plea agreement fell through that he would not pardon Hunter Biden, because it is discouraging that he has now gone back on his word on that. But the merits of the pardon and the reasons for it are legitimate, especially as you look at who Donald Trump is nominating, people like Matt Gaetz, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, all of whom have threatened retribution against Hunter Biden and others.
Okay, you went out on a limb backing up Biden when he said that there would not be a pardon. In July of 2023, just after that plea deal fell through, this is what you said. I want to watch.
Do you think a pardon for his son would be a mistake?
Yes, and I don't think there's any chance that President Biden is going to do that, unlike his predecessor, who pardoned all of his friends and anyone who had any access to him. And I think you see that in this case, where he kept on, and Merrick Garland kept on, a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney to investigate the president's son. If there is not an indication of the independence of the Department of Justice beyond that, I don't know what we could look for.
What does that feel like, watching yourself back then, reassuring people that Biden was not going to issue a pardon for his son?
Yeah, and I think that if that plea agreement and that plea deal had gone through, there would be no pardon. That was a satisfactory outcome.
It had already fallen
that
through.
Only was. Sorry?
When you reacted, this was when the deal had fallen through. And I hear what you're saying about the Kash Patel appointment, but you took him at his word. So what does that feel like, knowing that he's gone back on it?
So first, I just want to say I apologize for the delay. There's a delay on the video. I've been having some issues with my Wi-Fi in the past week or so. So I've been back and forth with the people about my Wi-Fi, and it was supposed to have been rectified, which is why I went live today, but it seems as if it's not totally rectified. So thank you for your patience on this, but not to belabor the point. So basically what he's saying is that, okay, well, He was unjustly targeted. He, undermined because his last name is Biden. He is being definitely put on the forefront for harassment. And he did this, and the reason why he went back so far for a full pardon and what they call a steep pardon is because of those reasons. And it's not really out of the norm. It's not illegal. It's not something that he feels everybody should be up in arms about for the most part, right? So that second part gets a little interesting because again, she shows him footage of himself 2 years ago, and then this is his response.
Well, as I said, I'm disappointed that after the plea fell through and it became clear about why it did, including Republican congressional intervention in this case, which made this case very unique and very different from any other case. I think that we all, perhaps I should have as well, recognized that this is not the normal prosecution. I said many times that if Hunter Biden were not Hunter Biden, he would never be charged with these crimes. And when you start to see what Donald Trump is planning to do with his Department of Justice and with his FBI, and the degree to which Hunter Biden has already been shamelessly attacked as a private citizen by Republicans, I certainly understand why the president felt like this miscarriage of justice should not carry forward, and that.
Okay, so I had to stop it there, y'all. Not one time in any of these clips or the ones that I saw that I choose not to, react to in the live, has anybody held Hunter responsible for his own decisions to even need to be pardoned for anything. Why does he need any clemency? Why does he need forgiveness? Why does he need protection? You keep talking about his name, his position, him being the son of the president. Why is it that we're talking at least 11 years? That's what we know of. This is no secret. He is 54. Hunter Biden is 54 years of age. He has been battling with these demons his entire adult life, right? This is not alleged. So why is it that no one wants to hold him accountable? And how is it Trump's fault? When Biden came into office, he signed several executive orders of his first day in office to undo a lot of what Trump did. That is typically what presidents do, especially when they switch parties, right, for the presidency. So out of the past 16 years, Democrats, I want to say, have had 12. They've been in office 12. And somehow everything that's wrong and has gone wrong is Trump's fault. So why is it that this is even a discussion or up for discussion at this point when nobody is holding Hunter Biden responsible for even needing to be pardoned for anything? I just find it crazy that nobody is talking about that. Everything is from such a political bubble and from a political stance that the morality and the moral compass of everything is not, it's not adding up. It just doesn't make sense. And somehow Hunter Biden is the victim instead of the perpetrator of his own journey, of making his own decisions, of needing any clemency, any forgiveness, or any pardons at all for any past behavior or current behavior, right? Because the pardon was issued a week before his guns case was set to go to court, right? So I just wanted to bring that up. Let's continue.
He should not be at risk of retributive prosecution for political reasons, which is not the proper way to execute our rule of law.
Do you think that President Biden's pardon of his son may actually put some pressure on some Senate Republicans who have concerns about Kash Patel being FBI director, that it may actually pressure them to confirm him?
So I ended it there because it just, we're going off into a different topic. Outside of Hunter Biden being pardoned and why he felt that there should be some clemency or some grace given to Biden, and understanding his position as his dad as to why he feels he should go back so far and cover so many of his needs to be pardoned, right? So, you got the political and legal fallout of all of it when you're dealing with members of both parties. They're arguing that pardon undermines the public trust, like they care about the public trust. However, we're just, for the sake of argument, going to put that in there inside of the justice system, and raises concerns about fairness. Truthfully and frankly, being a president, what is it? Let me think here. I just drew a blank as to, I think, is it 47 presidents? So we have millions of people, millions of citizens, and you have a very select few that have had the privilege or the honor or the title of becoming president of the United States. There's not going to be any fairness. There's not going to be, it is definitely going to exhibit signs, and my brain is moving slow here. Hold on a second, I'm coming, y'all. Exhibiting behaviors and decisions of grandeur, of superiority. Not too many people can say that they've been the president of the United States. There are perks that go along with the position, with the job, many perks, spoken as well as unspoken, right? So we're going to wrap this up, and then we're going to go briefly off into Tiffany Henyard, but there is one more video pertaining to Hunter Biden I definitely want to highlight, because it is on record that he stated he was not going to pardon his son. I will let him say it for himself.
Thanks, Mr. President. About 2 weeks ago, you changed course to allow Ukraine to fire U.S. weapons into Russia. Given the reported successes, would you consider further expanding the parameters on U.S. weapons into Russia, even despite your concerns about escalation? And on the news from home, you're going through something that so many American families go through, the intersection of addiction and the criminal justice system, but you're not like most families. Was your son able to get a fair trial? Do you believe the Justice Department operated independently of politics? And for President...
Let me answer your question and you ask his question, okay? With regard to the first question, it is clear that the near abroad, meaning just across the line of the border with Russia and Ukraine, that it makes a lot of sense for Ukraine to be able to take out or combat what is coming across that border. In terms of longer-range weapons into the interior of Russia, we have not changed our position on that sort. With regard to the question regarding the family, I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know, and I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
There you go. Know what else to say. He said he wasn't going to pardon him, and now not only has he pardoned him, but he's given him what they call a steep pardon, right? So with that being said, I think we beat that dead horse with a stick. It's a phrase, YouTube. I want to definitely go off into Tiffany Henyard, and we're going to make this really, really brief. However, of course, it's making its rounds in the news that last night that she did not make the ballot in Thornton Township last night as secretary, and she was some kind of hot and heated about that situation. But if you aren't aware of who Tiffany Henyard is, girlfriend got some issues. She has she got into office and lost her mind. Okay, in my opinion. So there are some definite allegations that have been presented since she has been mayor. And secretary. So we're looking at possibly, or at least there has been a lot of discussion on conflict of interest. She's had conflict with trustees. Nobody is really feeling her. She doesn't answer to anybody. She doesn't explain herself to anybody. She's very arrogant. She's very aggressive. She's extremely assertive when it comes to meeting her personal needs and not feeling like she has to answer to the people. She makes her own decisions, and that has yielded some financial mismanagement allegations that really top the list of a lot of different reasons why she was thrown off of the ballot as to be reelected or possibly be reelected for Thornton Township Secretary, right? So she's been criticized for excessive and questionable spending within the Thornton Township, as far as taking trips to Las Vegas, dining at exquisite restaurants, treating many, many other people outside of the jurisdiction of the political arena, and the trustees, not providing any financial lists or explanations as to where this money is going, how much, exceeding budgets, not feeling like, again, she has to explain herself to anybody. Trustees have openly disputed her handling finances of the township, including attempts to limit her spending authority through special meetings. There's a lot of footage of her being in these meetings and just basically telling people that this is what she did and she's not going to be questioned on why she did it. And that's her position on it, and that's where she stands. Her newest, I think it was a couple months ago, her newest challenge when you're talking about financial mismanagement came out and reflected something in her personal life. And she was served eviction papers to her home, or the home that she is renting for her and her boyfriend. So reports have surfaced of Cook County Sheriff's deputies attempting to serve her with an eviction notice, raising questions about her professional and her personal accountability. And this is just a quick and small clip explaining that.
Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard has a new crisis on her hands. She's being booted out of her home. Fox 32 has obtained copies of an eviction notice filed in Cook County Court against Henyard and her boyfriend, Kamal Woods. Henyard has been renting a home in the 14600 block of South Harvard for the past 3 years, but the owner of the home told us Henyard and Woods are behind on the rent and owe more than $3,300. The notice also says Henyard has refused to allow an inspection of that property. Now, we reached out to her attorney, who texted back that he believes the story is false and that no rent payment was ever missed.
So she's not believable. She's been caught in several lies, so to speak, untruths, misconceptions, if you will, regarding the budget and the county and the city's money. When she is questioned by the citizens, by the trustees, by the board, now she's being allegedly investigated through, by the FBI. She has really caused some community discontent, and to the point where there are a lot of residents that have expressed and been expressing dissatisfaction with her leadership. citing a lack of transparency. I think that's been a big one. The fact that she just doesn't answer questions. It's like her money. She spends it like it's coming out of her personal bank account or her wallet, and she doesn't owe anyone an explanation. She's got her own little personal piggy bank, and she has been exercising her ability to be able to spend it at will, like a kid in a candy store. Her effective management in both Dalton and Thornton Township. Again, there has been some discontentment amongst the civilians and the residents, stating that there's definitely, they feel a conflict of interest, which is probably one of those reasons why her name was dispelled from the ballot last night for Secretary of Township re-election. And then she had the nerve after all of that to really be upset. Now, legally, the caucus that was held last night did leave a lot of her supporters outside, okay? So a caucus is basically the members of a political party that come together and they vote based on elects. So they nominate people that they feel will be best suited for those positions. And it's largely based off of support. So it's like the first initial step to putting their names on the ballots before they become, public to vote, right? So she definitely, if it had been anybody else, I would say, even with her, I'm still got to call it down the middle and say that it was a play. It was something that they orchestrated in order, but that's how desperate they have become to get her out of that position and not put her in a position to be reelected, to cause any more distress upon the financial ruins of the town, right? Of the township, of the jurisdiction that she has had leadership over. At the same time, she is running it into the ground, and she has done it with it, as it seems, with impunity. So there really doesn't seem on the surface to be any, or if a lot, of consequences. And then last night, it was like a victory for the town. And I want to show a small clip of that. And let's go.
And one of Tiffany Henyard's jobs is at risk. The embattled Thornton Township supervisor wanted to run for re-election, but after this rowdy caucus tonight, her name will not be on the ballot.
Our Jermont Terry has been following the South suburban political drama for years now. He is live with what happened and Henyard's emotional reaction. Jermont.
Erica and Joe, Tiffany Henyard likes to tell people, quote, "Let me educate you on how this works." Well, tonight, you can say she was schooled on how the Democratic caucus works right here in Thornton Township. You can also say that she flunked out because her name is not appearing on the ballot.
Folks lined up early and in the cold for the Thornton Township Democratic caucus. Everyone outside and those inside the auditorium were here to vote on who will be the Democratic nominees in the township, including the coveted supervisor position. And Tuesday night's caucus left the current supervisor, Tiffany Henyard, fuming.
You didn't run none of this the right way. Illegal. Napoleon.
That's Henyard pleading her case to committeeman State Senator Napoleon Harris. As a committeeman, Harris set the rules Tuesday night, the first caucus in Thornton Township in nearly 30 years.
The person who says this seems to be outdated, you say what to that?
People in Thornton Township may be new to caucuses because they haven't had them in a while, but this has been the tradition for many other townships around the state.
And those in this room came out to see if Henyard would get the nomination, an uphill battle for the controversy surrounding her administration. Henyard was not in favor of the caucus.
I will be suing everybody tomorrow. This is illegal.
This is illegal in your opinion?
Illegal.
Okay. So let's talk about it. I mean,
Your concern is you brought people in to pre-bus.
All the people outside. They let not one person in.
Henyard used Thornton Township buses to transport supporters, mostly seniors. Yet many of the supporters did not get inside the packed auditorium of 600 people.
This is a process that's been going on way before me, and it's just I'm exercising my rights as the committeeman to hold a caucus.
And it is legal. When it was all said and done, the caucus voted, and Henyard did not get the nomination. Yet listen to who the caucus placed on the ballot.
The Democratic slate that would represent Thornton Township at the April 1st consolidated election reads as follows. For Supervisor, Napoleon Harris.
So he got elected, or he got nominated to go on the ballot, right? Now that definitely seems to be a conflict of interest. Mel, I did salute to Mel in the chat, and Double Speaks in the building. We got Rachel in the building. Salute to the chat. Salute to the chat. Yes. So basically, what they did was they exercised the play, in my opinion. So he said, Napoleon, the one that ended up on the ballot, this gentleman on the screen stated that it was his right to hold a caucus, but they were very, they orchestrated the ability to keep her supporters outside while the 600 people inside were for him or for not voting for her or to get her off of the ballot, which seems to be the primary. At this point, they really don't care, in my opinion, who's on the ballot as long as it's not her. So do I agree with their methods on that? I do not, if it's a breach of the political rules and system that are in place for that particular jurisdiction. I don't know what they are. Okay, I don't keep up. It's a very small town in perspective or in the spectrum of most towns that make the news of this magnitude. But she has definitely put Thornton Township on the map based off of either her leadership skills or her lack thereof. However you view it, they were able to keep her supporters outside. Okay, so to answer your question, Mel, the question, if she is duly elected by the people, how can they keep her off the ballot? Depending on who was on the inside, that's just my assumption based off of the news that has been presented to us, right? So you said, so I believe she has supporters, but those supporters were not delegates, and it seems that's why they weren't allowed to vote. I don't know, you're probably at work, but if not, I'm going to drop the link for you because you seem to be a little more informed about this entire process than I am. I am reacting to the news that is out there. However, I am aware enough of the detriment and the chaos that she has just so successfully erupted in this township that they have gone through a lot of measures to prevent her from being in a position to be reelected as secretary in this position one more time. Okay, Mel, I got you, no problem. But it is just definitely one of those situations where it kind of reminds me of the Biden and Trump election back in 2020. There were so many people on the bandwagon to get Trump out of there at all costs. And I'm just speaking as a comparison. And I know there was a lot of different components that we're not talking about or that don't fit the context of this conversation. But what does fit, in my opinion, is that there was such a fervor to get Trump out of office that because Biden was his only opponent, even though people knew about the 1994 crime bill, they knew a lot about his political history. He has been in the political arena actively for over 50 years. There's no secret as to what he thought, what he's had his hand in, what he's participated in, what he has signed off on. There has been hypocrisy throughout that time that a lot of people, especially the older generations, were aware of. They knew one thing, and they wanted Trump out. What they would deal with Biden once he got in there, right? And so to me, I look at this situation in a similar fashion due to the fact that she has caused so much chaos and disruption in that town or in that area that she has had, some jurisdiction and control over, that they just want her out. And so do I agree that he is a spokesperson of the caucus, and yet and still he's also the one that was put on the ballot? I don't agree with that. It doesn't sound right. But again, I'm not personally versed in if they did anything technically on the books illegally, or were they just dirty about it because they want her out, right? So there is one more, while Mel is getting his situation, to the point where he can hit the link. There is one more video and her response to where her people were outside, and this was after she cut a rug and really vocalized herself within the caucus. This is what happened when she came outside.
What happened, Tiffany? What happened? The vote already happened. Who's the slave? Who's the slave? Who's the slave? Who's the slave?
So he's asking who's on the slate. So they're unaware of anything that has transpired on the inside. She's coming out. She's pissed off. She doesn't, she's just saying, look, they did it wrong. It's illegal. Don't worry about it. And so she's in her feels right now, but they want to know, okay, well, you're not on there, so who is, right? That's what he means by who's on the slate. Let's go.
We never got the opportunity. And we've been here.
We won't stand for it.
Tiffany, tell me what happened. None of y'all vote. The police
Tiffany, tell us what happened. This ain't your crime.
He just did an illegal meeting.
Who's the slave?
Okay, so she said, if you didn't hear her, she said they didn't let none of y'all vote, and it was illegal. Let's hear that again.
Who's the slave? Tell us what happened. This ain't your crime.
He just did an illegal meeting.
Who's the slave?
Meeting just started at 7 o'clock. How they gonna have the vote and we didn't even come in yet? How did they nominate people if we did not go?
Were y'all in there? Did the nomination happen? Yes.
So the brother said, well, how is it that y'all can nominate anybody when we weren't allowed to come in and vote? So it sounds like the only people that was able to be let in and allowed to vote were those that were not supporters of Tiffany Henyard. Okay. Boy, I tell you, I have to say that the more I'm looking at this, that she was definitely iced out, for a lack of a better term. They do not want her, at least a majority don't. And the people that she had bussed in using, taxpayers' dimes, coming in to support her, they all had to stand outside. And it was cold last night. I just want to say that for the record.
Who's the slave? Hey, the media won't tell us who the slave is. Stop them.
What'd you hear, Carol?
What
was the slate?
It was really difficult to hear the slate of candidates over the shouting. But Harris was nominated as supervisor. Chris Gonzalez was nominated as one of the trustees. And honestly, that's all I got right now. It was so incredibly loud in there. Tiffany Henyard was screaming the entire entire time while the proceedings were going on, Harris almost had the sergeant of arms actually remove her from the room, from the caucus, because of her screaming. So that's all I got right now. We'll offer as much as we can as soon as we get the full ticket.
Okay, that's Carol Shawarka from the Lansing Journal. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Aaron.
I'm going to go. All right, we get in.
So after, it appears that after the nomination was made, now they're all being let inside, and there are many of them that are going inside to see what is going on, and I probably ask questions and definitely push up on some people that are already on the inside, right? So I'm just here to say, you know, right doesn't beget, or wrong doesn't beget right at times. And I'm not justifying it. I'm not agreeing with it. If that is the way that it happened, the way that it appears, then that was done incorrectly. Despite her history, they elected her. Let's not forget that. They actually brought her on board. They elected her. They brought her into office. And of course, it wasn't long thereafter that they had buyer's remorse. Hey, Mel Dub, thank you for hitting the link. I appreciate you.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Kimi, in the chat. Thank you so much for asking me to come up here. I'll do my best to explain how the caucus works, because there is a difference between a caucus and a primary.
Yes.
You know, caucuses are typically used for small townships like what's happening with her. And did you mention that she holds 2 different positions?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
mayor as well as secretary. Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna explain how they screwed her over, because I had to do some research on it. Basically, what they did was they held this caucus without her knowing about it. And then once they held the caucus, they set a new list of rules that said, this is how they got her. They said, if you are running for you can only run for 1 position at a time if you are running, if you're in this Democrat caucus that they're part of. So they knew she also was the mayor of Dalton, but she's also the supervisor in that township that she's a part of, Thornton Township. So they put in place a rule specifically saying that you cannot run for 2 offices just so they could screw her over. Now, what I was saying with the delegates or the caucus people, rather, was there are certain people that they do allow that can vote and certain people that can't vote. The people that Henyard brought there, they waited to the last minute to make sure that they couldn't verify these people were Democrats, because the only people that could participate in this caucus were Democrat members. So she is no longer the Democrat nominee. Now she can still run for both positions as an independent, but the Democrat Party in Clinton and Thornton Township, the black community that's supposed to be black unity, screwed her over, and that is what happened. And that, I don't like her. I think she spent a lot of money and does a lot of crazy stuff. But if the people elected her, what they did was they just took the hand of deciding the leader of the community out of the hands of the people, and they placed it in this small caucus to force who they wanted to be in there, Mr. Napoleon Dynamite himself. So I'll go on mute, but that's what I have for it.
Well, no, definitely appreciate your input and your information on that. Now, the only thing that I would like to mention is that I did hear one of the newscasters say that she actually couldn't even run as an independent, but that she could only run as a write-in. Does that not sound accurate to you?
Oh, wow. So they really did screw her over. So,
Yeah.
So
she
here's
couldn't even run as an independent, a Democrat, an independent, and that the only way she would be able to run it all was as a write-in.
So what they did, they probably told her, "Oh yeah, you'll run for the Democrat. You're going to be the Democrat nominee." This is what they probably told her, those caucus people, and they waited until the last minute to hold this caucus. And that way, it's probably past the deadline for her to file papers to run. And they probably did that on purpose to her, because there's a deadline you have to meet before in order to be placed on the ballot. So yeah, if she missed that deadline because she assumed she was going to be the Democrat nominee for the supervisor of supervisory board or the Democrat nominee for Thornton Township, and she missed that deadline, yeah, the only other option is she's going to have to be a write-in candidate, and she won't get elected that way. Definitely. Wow, they got her. They got her.
That explains why so many titles are stating that she was tossed off the ballot. So they're not using kind lingo when it comes to speaking on her not being able to run for re-election and secretary, to be the secretary of township. But a political arena is a dirty game.
I mean, I'm just really disappointed that, yeah, she did some bad stuff to make Thornton Township look bad, but I, as a person who believes in a republic, that we do operate under, I do believe that if the people want her as their governance, that they should have the right to have her as their governance without this party sabotaging her ability to run for re-election. In a lot of ways, she should feel the alignment of Donald Trump more than anyone else to see what it's like to try for people to organize and actively pursue screwing you out of a position because they don't like you, not because so hey, here's to her. She did it the wrong way, but that shows how corrupt those people are overall in that township. And if I lived there, I would move away because I wouldn't want none of them representing me.
I agree with that. Absolutely. Especially when you go through those types of links and measures to definitely. And again, you and myself have mentioned that they elected her. They placed her into that position, not just as township secretary, but as mayor of Dalton as well. So you can't get into either one of those positions without being elected, or at least it should be that way. At least, like you said, that is our republic, how the due process of our republic and how it should operate. However, but if when you start graying the area, when you bend or you start to try to circumvent the process and the system that is in place, that has worked, that has been consistent, whether you like the outcome or you don't, at least you've been able to rely on that process, on that due diligence of getting somebody into or electing somebody into office. So definitely, I'm with you. I don't want no parts of that.
Well, here's what's going to happen with her anyways. She's going to either end up, and this is going to be the truth, she's going to end up on The View probably. She's going to either run for a federal office, such as a House of Representative position, and get elected, or something of that nature, because she is a Black woman. And right now there's a grievance of guilt between white progressives overall to embolden or enable that particular demographic. So she's going to be fine. She's going to be fine. But somehow or another, they're going to try to shift the blame on somebody else and not on the crooked way that they ousted her from this role and this position as a supervisor in their township. And it's telling to me of how crooked some of these politicians have been, and they don't care about the community. They only care about being a person in power. And she's one of them, but she met her match with Napoleon Dynamite. That's what I'm gonna call him, Napoleon Dynamite.
I agree with that. And I feel conflicted because I'm going to be honest and transparent and say there's a part of me that's saying good for her. Now she's getting a little bit of what she has dished out, but to what price? To what extent does it jeopardize the future elections, the future due process? And we have no idea from the outside looking in if he's actually going to be a better candidate.
Yeah, and see what's conflicting to me is, if I heard correctly, he's a state senator. And so why would a state senator leave that post of a state post to go work and operate in a local jurisdiction? What money games are they playing back there? What come up can you get by being the supervisor in Thornton Township? And I would like to see the people who before Tiffany Henyard, what did they get? How did they live? Because if they were living lavish or if they were doing something, that means that people realize they can get a come up or some type of play off of that position. So, I don't know. I don't have anything else for it, but it's, if I was in Thornton Township, and I don't care who it is, I'm moving to, Muskogee, Alabama, or somewhere out of there. So Kalamazoo, Michigan. So
as far away from that situation as you can, right?
Anchorage, Alaska. I wouldn't even tell nobody I'm from Illinois. I wouldn't tell nobody I was from Illinois after that. So, all right, Mr. Kimmy, I'm gonna drop back down.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming up. Thank you so much for your addition and input to the conversation, Mel. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, sister. Take care.
Okay, you too. Wow. So there you have it, people. That is pretty much what I have for today. I appreciate everybody that has come through, that has, sat and listened for a bit. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm very grateful to all of you. Thanks to my mods, to everybody that typed in the chat. At the end of the day, my conclusion, when it comes to Tiffany Henyard, her tenure has definitely been blemished, in my opinion, by controversies when it comes to financial management, to governance disputes, her ability to juggle, several roles. It's just, there's a lot of different components that definitely doesn't surprise me when it comes to the actions of last night and the links that some people will go to in order to displace her and to get her out of there for new leadership opportunities. However, again, when we're in a republic or we are in a democracy, there are systems in place, there are laws, there's legislation. And when you bend that or you circumvent that, then you just open up the door for more of that to happen in the future. And it definitely, it bases a mistrust, or it places a mistrust in the people. And that's how you get elected, is from supposedly the people, right? And so the same thing happens, and I would say that same breed of lack of distrust can also come into play when it comes into the first topic with Biden and Hunter Biden and his dad pardoning him after he stated several times in interviews or on podiums that he would not do such a thing. So it's not the fact, I think, for most that he did it, because most of us should know or should be aware that it is something like a perk of the position, and it's not uncommon to do so. However, again, I raised two questions right off the top. One, why is he the only one, even though we still have about a month, little over a month left? Still could be some more pardons, but as of now, he's the only one. And why do you go back so far? Why do you go back so far? And what does this do to the due diligence of the process going forward when you have different presidents in office? And does it open that door for it to be abused in the future, or to be circumvented for outside of the purpose that it was intended, right? So either way it goes, I just wanted to come and do a live and kind of shed light on my perspective, give my perspective on this topic, on these topics, right? And so with that being said, I'm not going to do a long conclusion. I appreciate y'all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, everybody. And if you're coming in late, please feel free to catch the replay. I appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful day. Peace.